Here's something to share with you. Cutting metal pipe is a little bit too much for the Ryobi. I gotta go buy a new saw. All right, so that little blade didn't work out as well, so I went and got my big saw here with a demolition blade on it. I'm gonna give this a shot. That one wasn't cutting straight. The blade length really wasn't long enough. Ended up breaking the blade after I stubbed it and bent it. I don't think this was gonna stub and bend. Way more durable. Let's give this one a shot and see what happens. Way better, smoother, straighter. All right, here's something to share with you. Cutting metal pipe is a little bit too much for the Ryobi. I gotta go buy a new saw. All right, now that we got the ground stakes in, we're ready to start putting our bows together. When they ship the bows, they bundle each bow in its own little separate little bundle. So I think there's 5 pieces of metal per bow. So we got 16 bows. We're gonna pull these out and we're gonna start putting the tech screws in, and then we can move all the bows out and start getting those raised up. All right, this bow measures about 25.5 feet wide. So when we stand these bows up, we push them together and that creates strength. And then we put them down into the ground post, and it'll be nice and rigid whenever there's tension holding the entire bow together. I chose to bring my bows in here and put them together on the concrete. My friend Sam over at Scrubland Farms said that when he started putting his together out on the grass where he was putting up his greenhouse, the ground was kind of unlevel. And so when he stood his bows up, they were all kind of wonky looking. So he recommended that I put them together on a nice flat ground. That way I have a good, consistent bow. So if you have a nice level concrete slab and you're doing your bows, you may want to think about doing them there and then taking them out to where you're going to be putting your greenhouse up. All right, so now we're getting ready to put the tech screws in, and we'll show you what we're going to do there. Okay, so we got a tech screw, which is just a standard screw, but then it has a little drill point on the end, so it'll self-tap. We just put these right through here. Now this end was the swedged end, and so when we put it in, we're just going to go in maybe an inch, and we're going to put our screw on the underside of the hoop. If you put it on the top, you may snag the plastic when you get ready to pull the plastic across the top of the bow. So anywhere but the top would be best, so we'll just go with the bottom side. It's not as easy as I've seen in other videos. That took a little time. All right, a little quick lesson learned, guys. trying to get the drill level and push this way is a bit strenuous. If I could press more of an up and down, I could put my shoulder and my weight into it, and it seems like the screws go in a lot quicker. I tried to grab just a drill bit and do a pre-drill, but the drill bit has to be so small for that screw to go in behind it that the drill bit kind of seems a little weak and it doesn't want to, like it wants to break. So I'm just sticking with the self-tapping screws. And we're gonna put it more on the side of the brace than underneath it. All right guys, that took about an hour to do all 16 hoops, 4 screws per hoop. I was kind of surprised I was able to stack them inside, but once I got about halfway through the hoops, they started, the inside hoop started giving me pressure. So yeah, it kind of gave me concern, but we did it. We built each hoop inside of the other hoop. All right, so we're out of time for today. We're going to pick this up, go outside, stand these up, and start putting the cross braces in. All right, so next morning, sun's coming up, it's chilly out, so I'm back in the shop, and I figure I would work on something else before moving these before I'm moving these hoops outside. So what I figured I would do was I would find top dead center of each hoop, put a little mark on there. That way, whenever I stand them up and I get ready to put the purlin down the center, I'll have an indicator of where center of those hoops are. All my ground stakes are evenly apart. They're of even height, so everything is consistent and the same, so there's no reason why these hoops should be off either. I'm gonna go ahead and show you what I've done. All right, so this is the top center of the hoops, and they're off a little bit, but you can see I've got some little marks here. Now what I've done is I've tried using that tape measure, and it didn't work because it's too stiff. What I did is I grabbed my 100-foot tape measure that's flexible, and I flipped it over to the meter side, and I put the tape measure right at the end of the top piece of hoop. And I have measured and found out that 1 meter, 10 centimeters, and 2 millimeters, I believe that's correct, is the center. So I lay the tape around because I have flipped it around and I've come right back to the same mark. And then I take my little permanent marker and I mark right there. That way when I stand these up, I'll have an indication of where center is. So a little tidbit tip, we'll see if it helps out when we start putting these up. Okay, so now that we got the hoops done, figured out, one of the other things I figured I would go ahead and start working on until it gets warm outside is the cross brace. I'm just going to be putting these together. We're going to install these after we install the purlins on the top of the hoops. But we're going to go ahead and start putting these two together and putting a tech screw in it. So cross braces come in two sections, no swage, and then a pile of swaged ends. And again, what I mean by swaged is that it's tapered on the end right there, and it's not tapered on the end. All right, so let's pull these out, start putting these together, and put a tech screw in. Okay, on the end of each one of these braces is going to be the end caps. I'm going to go ahead and put one end cap on one end, and then on the other end we'll put another set, but we have to make sure to pay attention that the tips are all in the same position. We don't want to put one up there one way and the other one be the other way. All right, I don't know if I've covered it or not, but it comes with a box of couplers, and these are for the big end. The bows are swedged on one end, but they're not swedged on the other end. So they use a coupler to set down over it so that non-swedged ends can be combined together. And you come back and put a tech screw on both of those. We're going back through and doing tech screws on all the poles all the way around. Wherever there's a joint of a pipe that fit together, we're putting a tech screw in there to hold it. just as a little note, make sure you're not putting these screws on the outside where the plastic is going to be rubbing. Don't want to tear your plastic, plus your baseboards are going there. Put it on this side or somewhere along the sides. I'm choosing to put them in like a 45-degree angle. That way anything on this side isn't interrupted with a screw, or on the outside. All right, well, that's it for the day. Dark has caught up with us. We had a full day's work. I'm happy with what we've got done. We're gonna go ahead and put the cross braces up next, I suppose, and then the other two purlins. So we'll see you. The next step, now that we have all of our hoops in place, is to start putting that center purlin down the middle. If you look right here on the ground, I got 3 purlins that are laying there, purlin pipe. So it's really your only straight pipe, and it's properly labeled purlin. There's nothing special to note on the purlin material. What you're going to do is when you grab that first pipe and you go to your first end wall, whether it be the back or the front, your C-clamp, purlin end wall C-clamp, is going to come in the big box that has a bunch of stuff in it, along with your tech screws and stuff like that. So this is going to go, your pipe is going to come out to the end, and then you're going to screw this to your first hoop. And that way you don't have any pipes sticking out, because on the end of our wall, we're going to come back and we're going to frame it out in boards, and you're not going to have any place for overrun pipe. So that's what we're going to do. Now, for the rest of the purlins, you're going to get your saddle clamps, and I got 2 boxes of these, but your hoops are going to run through this top right here, and then your purlin is going to go right down through here, and you put a nut and a bolt there to hold that together. So let's go ahead and grab our purlins, some clamps. Let's get started. I can tell right now this is going to be wearing me out, pulling against the pole, trying to put tech screws in up above my head. I'm not going to say it was that easy, but that one's done. Now, I left the saddle loose so that I can move that pole back and forth. So now we'll go through and we'll put another saddle on the next arch and put another connecting pole in, and then we'll come back and we'll tighten them later. But I'm just leaving them loose right now until we get everything situated. All right, my phone died on that last little scene where I was cutting the end of that pipe off on that last hoop. Now that we've got everything pretty well where I want it, we're gonna go back through and we're gonna tighten each one of those bolts at the top. All right, so here's a tip for you. The size of that nut is a 13 millimeter. Grab a deep well. So the shallow socket won't work. Looks good. I'm happy with it. Okay, now that we got the center purlin latched down where we want it, it's not going to move. I'm pretty confident those bolts are going to hold that thing right in place through some very strong winds. The next step is to put up the cross brace that's going to go across the hoop and kind of hold that hoop together. So let's take you on over there and let's show you the components for putting up the cross brace. Each one of the cross braces are approximately 15 foot long, and I kind of measured about where they're going to land on each hoop, and it's about 9.5 feet up off the ground. One pro tip, if I had to do this over again, if I knew in advance like I'm showing you people, I would have taken the cross brace clamp, not your purlin clamps to hold our purlin, don't get those confused, they're properly labeled, but take your cross brace clamp, and I would have put this over the ground stake before I even put my hoop in place, simply because in order to get this around the pole, I now have to muscle this thing open it up a little bit more, just so that I can get it onto that pole. Then I've got to get a piece of a pair of pliers, and then I've got to be able to open them up. And then press these pieces back together so that I could get that bolt through there and put them around the end of the cross brace. So we've got 16 hoops, but you only have 14 cross braces, because your first set of hoops don't need a cross brace because those are going to mount to your end walls. Speaking of end walls, we've decided we're going to put 4x4 posts concreted in the ground, and then we're going to tie those in. That's at a later episode. Okay, I got a 10-foot ladder. Since my cross brace is about 9.5 foot off the ground, I don't have to go far to be able to put my cross brace up. I've taken a speed level that has a magnet on one end of it and just put it right on top of the cross brace. And be sure that your bolt ends are pointing straight up and down, since that's the way they're going to go. And then hopefully that magnet will hold on there. And then we're going to go to each end, install the ends, and then we're going to level it. Look at there, guys. It's pretty well level. You can see that. I'm pretty happy with where that's at. we can go ahead and tighten that one down and then move on to the next one. That's it for putting up the cross brace. I had to bring Michelle out, put her up on a ladder, hand her the impact driver, and it went a lot faster than me trying to get up there and do that by myself. All right, we've got our cross brace up. The next logical thing to do would be to put the center cross brace down the middle. Not time for that just yet. The next thing we're actually going to do is put up our purlins on the ends of our cross brace. We're going to go just above the end of the cross brace. We're going to use a purlin clamp, and we're going to install the cross brace. Okay, we got number 2 and number 3 purlins up, and I brought you up here so you can kind of see. When we put these purlins up, we put them up level, but that don't mean that they're all exactly on the same mark on each purlin. One seems to be a little higher than the other, therefore my purlins, as they shoot down and attach, they're kind of wobbly. Now, I don't think it's a big deal. Matter of fact, I know it's not a big deal. But if you want all your purlins to look exactly the same, the only thing that could come to my mind is if you raise the laser way up here, got them all level, and then you could go to all the marks, and then you will know where to put your cross braces, and therefore your number 2 and number 3 purlins would line up better. But things are kind of wavy if you look down through there. It's not all that noticeable, but when you're putting it up and you're having to pull a pole down or push a pole up to get it into the clamp, then you kind of notice, you're like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? Okay, I see what's happening here. And no big deal for me, but like I said, if you really want to get it straight, that's the only thing I could say. No lessons learned. I'm happy with how it turned out, and I don't think that I would do anything any different. I probably wouldn't even put the laser up there and take the extra time to do that, because I don't think it's just worth the effort. All right, the next step after we got the purlins up is to put our wind bracing at each 4 corners. The purpose of the wind bracing is during high winds, it helps stabilize the structure and keeps it from shimmying in the wind. So this 24x60 kit comes with 4 poles, and what you're going to do is you can take your pole, you're going to take 2 of your end caps and then 2 clamps for each one. And I've already rigged one up right here. So I've put one end cap here, put a Tech screw in, and then you go to the other end, the end cap is going to face in the other direction, and then your clamps will clamp around your hoops like this, and then you'll put a bolt in. Let's head on out and go ahead and I'll show you how these get installed. All right, so this is our front hoop that's going to get framed out. This is our first hoop that has all the cross bracing and stuff. We're going to go to the bottom of this one and then start our install. It's as simple as that. We'll come back and we'll take our impact wrench and we'll tighten these bolts down, but let's get the other 3 installed and we'll move on to the next thing. All right, before we go any further, I'm going to introduce my friend Caden here. We've got so much going on this year, and I was so overwhelmed with everything that hey, Caden or your mom put an ad out saying, hey, looking for some labor work.
Yes, sir.
And my wife was like, hey, how about we hire this guy for maybe a Saturday or something? I was like, you know what? That's a good idea. Okay, we're moving on to the drop-down braces that go on to purlin number 1 and the cross brace that goes across. Now, the pipes are sent all at a standard cut because every drop-down brace is just a little bit different in length. So you're going to have to cut these to fit. So what we did is we got up on the ladder and I measured the distance from purlin number 1 down to the cross brace. We took a pipe and we wrote number 1 on it, and then we put a tape measure on it and then made a mark where we need to cut that pipe and laid it to the side. We went down each hoop and got a measurement for each drop down come back in here to the Sawzall and cut each pole to length. Now, putting the brackets, you're going to get these little clamps right here. That's going to go where your purlin is right here, and then your cross brace this way. One's going to be turned that way and one 90 degrees to that. Almost messed up when we were getting ready to put these together, and I was going to make them both parallel with each other, and I looked back over there and I saw that one is 90 degrees from the other. Now, another tip where we almost messed up is I just put the clamp up there and put a Tek screw in, and then it came to me that it's best that if I take a bar, let me get this in, and lay it on the cross brace, that way you know it's perfectly fit. Then you take another clamp, lay it on top, and then you take your Tek screw and you screw that clamp. Now once that clamp is in, you flip the whole thing over, and now you take the one that you just screwed and you put it on bottom. You take you a new clamp, lay it right on top, and put a Tek screw in on that, and then back it back out, and do that for both ends. And then we're going to take this out to our hoops, and then we can just pop them right up there. We already have a pre-drilled tapped hole, and then we can just put the clamp on the purlin that way, and then put the clamp on the cross brace. Now that we've got these, all 14 of them measured, cut, and a clamp on each end, we're going to take them out there and start getting these installed. All right, I hope you found this video informational, if nothing else, entertaining. Like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned for our future videos we're going to be posting on this build. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, keep growing, keep building, and always keep adventuring. Together, we're Flumpton Famous. We'll see you next time.
Perfect.